as you might imagine with something like this, I mean, I conducted 80 interviews for the film, and there's like more than 50 years of archive, and I guess the thing is that ultimately we arrived at the kind of the film as it is, and the things that didn't make it just kind of weren't sort of flowing in the same way. So sometimes it was just a case of trying to sort of make the whole film flow.
Hi, my name is Adip Desai. I'm a writer and a BAFTA breakthrough of 2020 in the United States. And I'm pleased to get to hang out with this illustrious crew here, the Sparks and Edgar Wright, who have a new documentary out. And I watched it 2 times to prepare for this, but mostly because it was really super fun and awesome. So I had a few questions for you guys. I don't have a ton because that is an exhaustive documentary that you put together. Were there any bands that you've talked to over the years that you were surprised for them to say, "Oh, you influenced us"? Were there any like wild cards?
Well, we really thought it was interesting that Edgar, attracted this really wide-ranging bunch of musicians that spoke, about what effect Sparks has had on them and their careers and stuff. But what was interesting to us was the kind of seeming disparity in the genres of all those different musicians, where it ranged from Flea of the Chili Peppers to to Duran Duran and kind of everything in between. And so for us, that was kind of it was surprising, but in a really, really great way that different musicians have gravitated to Sparks from different periods maybe of our career and have found different things that they've enjoyed about what we've done.
Mm-hmm. And Edgar, was there any footage that you left out that you really, really wanted to get in, but time did not permit that?
He had the Beatles all got together again, and he thought it was, Edgar just thought it was kind of overkill. So.
Yeah.
It's not enough time and kind of pretentious.
Yeah, I agree.
Not enough Paul McCartney, time permitting. No, there was, as you might imagine with something like this, I mean, I conducted 80 interviews for the film, and there's like more than 50 years of archive, and I guess the thing is that ultimately we arrived at the kind of the film as it is, and the things that didn't make it just kind of weren't sort of flowing in the same way. So sometimes it was just a case of trying to sort of make the whole film flow. And that isn't to say that the bits that were cut out were not kind of worthy in some cases, actually, because I've just been doing like the extras for the Blu-ray and DVD, and some of those things we put back on because they work sort of better in isolation as little vignettes, almost like little shorts, than they did in the whole scheme of things. Like, for example, I shot quite a bit of stuff with Ron and Russell on location, and those bits are really like sort of sweet and charming. But as we started editing it together, it was sort of clear that there wasn't sort of time to stop for them. So, and it felt like sort of like something from a different documentary. So all of those things will be available, and and also little things like I reunited Ron and Russell with Todd Rundgren after 47 years. And I have that on camera, but again, it was something where you just wanted to watch the whole thing, so I kind of thought, well, this doesn't go in the movie, but this will be on the TV. So
I feel like you guys and Todd Rundgren could be its own sort of series. Ironically, I watched Dumb and Dumber the other day, and Todd did all the music for that movie, so I was in a Rundgren fest of my own.
I've completely forgotten that. Did he really do the score for that movie?
He did. He did the music for that movie.
Well, we're honored that he both did the score for Dumb and Dumber and was the only person that would back us when we were first starting. So there's his resume.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
We really
You're mad that he got that gig.
Yeah, damn it. But in all seriousness, we owe so much, pretty much everything to Todd, because when we first began, we did demos before we had an album and sent them, to the 20 people at record labels that you're supposed to send them to. And the only person that responded was Todd. And he both signed us to his Bearsville record label at the time and also produced the first album. So if it hadn't been for him, we wouldn't be sitting here now. And so it was a really moving moment for us, at least, when we got to see him after all that time. The reason for not seeing him wasn't anything negative. It was just one of those things.
Just time kind of passing on and
Yeah.
losing touch. And in those sessions, was there something that you learned from him that you collaborated on that you sort of brought into your overall process moving forward with your own recording?
Well, what was great was that, and Todd mentions it in the documentary specifically, and we're glad that his recollection of those sessions were exactly the same as our recollection. But he said what he really liked was the kind of creative side of what we were doing, and he thought that what he could help bring to that first album was just on a sonic level, that he could enhance it more than we could afford in our little apartment recording sessions that we did. And so we would always tell people that story for 47 years of that was what, if you what was it like with Todd? And we said it was really great because he wanted to encourage kind of the eccentricity of what we were doing. And then kind of on record during Edgar's documentary, he said almost word for word those exact things. So we're glad that was his recollection of what went on.
Mm-hmm. And Edgar, what was your experience like talking with Todd about these guys?
I was probably most nervous about interviewing Todd Rundgren because he's one of those guys who's so prolific that I'm dreading the conversation to veer off Sparks.
Right.
Because there's only so much time to bone up for an interview, and I could cover Todd and Sparks very, very well. But I said, don't ask me about anything else. I'm not prepped. So one of the nice things about doing the documentary was the sort of amazing thing with this illustrious list of interviewees is that I got to just talk to them about Sparks. So it's kind of it's just a funny thing when you're sitting there with Mike Myers or Duran Duran and the topic of conversation is only Sparks. But that's what was great about it. And I hope if the interviews feel sort of candid and unforced, it's because we were just like chatting in a very nice way.
That was really one key to the success of the documentary, I think, is that Edgar did all the interviews and everybody really felt at ease that was being interviewed and kind of responded in a really conversational way, in a really candid way, and really eloquently. And there was nobody kind of just sitting there, like they were kind of forced to be there. And so the tone of all the interviews is different than a lot of other documentaries, at least the ones I've seen.